entire months of fucking income from my validator trying to get this fucking camera working.
It's like
so fucking annoying, man. I bought a goddamn
$70.
Elgato bullshit yesterday, and it didn't work. I've gone through 3 fucking cables. They don't work. I've gone back to the USB. It works, but I'm pretty sure my battery in my camera now is going to run out before the end of this fucking stream. And is there a lag? I feel like there's a fucking lag.
Yeah, there's a lag from your...
Welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent validated teams where we strive every week to get demonetized before we even roll credits. And this week we have a friend of the podcast, Sisler from Omniflix, to come on, and he's going to talk a little bit about Media of DAO. And we have and obviously Null's got audiovisual troubles as usual because he's in Kangaroo Land. And we've got we sort of arranged for all the drama in the cosmos to happen about 4 hours ago so that we would have just knocked over something on the floor, and that hopefully didn't come through the mic. We've arranged for all the drama in the cosmos to happen about 4 hours ago, so we would have lots to talk about on the show. So we've got like a quite comedically large spreadsheet this week, which some of you on Twitter. There's a spreadsheet. It's been renamed to corporate goals and OKRs now, which you would know if you've been on Twitter earlier today. I'm gonna kick off with the drill tweet of the week, and then the second thing on the agenda, which might have action items to follow up from it, is I need to understand what the fuck this corporate business is all about. But put a pin in that for a second. Okay. Drill tweet of the week, and you could tell that I pick these randomly by how bad this one is. Everyone always says that they would use X-ray goggles to look at women's asses and get horny and wild. Not me. I would use them to help doctors. That's the drill tweet of the week. Thanks very much. Okay, so agenda, fellas.
That might be the last week of this segment.
Oof. Big oof. You never know what you're going to get with the drill.
You never know. That's true.
It's like you know when you flick through Liartown USA and it's like you get to a page and it's just like cuss and bear and it's just like fuck. And you're like,
that's true. Yeah,
that's
good point.
Actually, to be fair, that's the cuss and bear joke is actually a really good one. Anyway, liartownusa.tumblr.com. If you don't know what I'm talking about. I don't even know if it still fucking exists, but there is a book. You can get it off Amazon. It's mad.
Well, time to go look that up.
Yeah,
it's time to go look that up. Corporate null, corporate rhino. What the fuck did I miss? I was away like less than 48 hours, as is my habit. I was on a train. I was traveling between two places. I get off the train. Everybody's corporate.
If you think we know what's going on, then you've made an assumption that we can't back up.
I have no.
I'm getting called out on Twitter for not being corporate enough. I'm corporate. We're all corporate. I can OKR.
Rama posted one. I liked it. I thought that thing was fucking cool. And then I said it wasn't yellow enough because it didn't have any Australia in it. And then then I got a rhino one. I was like, well, I got to add some flair to this. So then I photoshopped it up. And then I got into a Photoshop war with soy. Was it soy? I forget who I got in a Photoshop war with. It just escalated. And next thing I know, here I am. I have no idea how I got here.
It's just a fun meme. It's all it is.
Right.
It's just a fun meme.
Boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys.
They do fucking say that. Actually, I have heard. It's tax season, so they say a lot of that. That's how
is it tax season? Is it tax season now?
It is.
Are we going back to tax or
no? We're not going.
No, we're not. We're not going to talk about tax.
We're not going back to tax.
It's the worst bit of tax season. It's the worst or best. I mean, as in you know how you pay it now, so it's the furthest distance between you having to pay it. But if you got it wrong, now you're in trouble because you've just committed tax fraud.
We still have another
tax fraud or not.
Days.
I'm already feeling better because I'm like, well, it's about to be paid. I have some number that's being paid. I can feel good. I can breathe a little bit. I know how much it's going to be on my bank account at the end of this. Tax fraud or not, I feel better.
There you go. At least the number's in, right? That's all that matters.
Exactly right.
Wow. That's the one.
Sure, the podcast people really
it's meant to be that guy than this guy.
Jesus. What'd you do? You load up all the Ballmer pictures.
He's got all the boomer pictures. Okay, so in conclusion, I have no idea what the corporate thing is. Turns out it just whatever, man. Go back to sleep, Frey. That's the answer.
Yeah, man. It's just a fun meme. You're not missing out on anything except for
I'm not
being cool.
missing- So you didn't all just get rich off a corporate NFT.
We remain unfunded.
Okay, Game of Nodes NFTs. So basically what you're saying is you came up with a dank meme that had traction and didn't link it to Game of Nodes or monetize it or make NFTs.
Correct. Yeah.
Clearly,
So it kinda sounds
monetization
like
is
my-
not our bag. Like
It kind
we
of
just-
sounds like my influence in the room was needed.
When you
And-
put it that way, now I feel stupid.
It's like, you need like Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire. Just like, show me the money. Show me the money.
Frey, our primary focus is to have fun. Getting paid is secondary.
That's true.
Having fun. What's that? I haven't had
Yeah.
fun since 1997.
Well, you need to get out more, buddy. Get yourself a nice audio visual lag. That's fun.
Yeah.
You know,
Your lag's so big today, Noel. You could probably get out and go walk about and then get back by the time it's finished.
I can get bigger. This is only half Zoom. I could zoom right in.
that's enough.
So let's
I can speak with-
not be comparing Zoom factors now. It's not going to help the people listening later on podcast players, is it? For one thing. So
I can chuck on my 17mm lens. You'll probably be able to see behind my monitor.
oh, you're on the fancy camera. Eh? You're on the DSLR.
Yeah, hence the lag. And like yesterday afternoon, me putting holes in my wall trying to make it work, and it didn't go well. It's still not going well. It's cost me more money than I care to admit, and yeah, I'm still not happy.
Yeah.
Still
Obviously not happy now because there's this fucking lag. I have a capture card, like a USB capture card,
Mhm.
and for the life of me, I can't make it fucking work. If I go and I can plug the shit into my TV and the image comes out on my TV, probably with a lag, but I just cannot seem to get it to capture in this fucking HDMI capture. I'm very annoyed.
Who's got Discord
Oh,
open? 'Cause I
fuck,
can
who do you
fucking
think it is?
hear it. Of course,
Oh,
it's
it's
Noel.
probably me.
He's dejetting Discord. while we're-
100% not
this is
lag.
exactly the lag of course. You know, I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry. I'm think I'm gonna have to refer this to HR because this is an unacceptable lack of professionalism. You
I
know, and
don't know.
This is not the first time. No, I'm not gonna name names, but some of your colleagues have in 360 feedback. They've mentioned this. Schultze, not naming any names, people have mentioned in anonymous feedback that you leave Discord open, while they're trying to help you redeploy your shit or whatever the fuck it was that Schultze was helping you with earlier. Sorry, anonymous could be anybody. People have mentioned that you're not paying due. They're trying to help you with the task, and like I said, it could be anybody. But this has come up to HR before, so I think we're going to have to take disciplinary action now.
Schultze was sending me messages in Discord. Like, what do you want me to
Just now?
close it and not fucking read it?
I don't think pointing fingers is going to help you at this point now. Like, that ship has sailed. I think we're into a formal disciplinary process now, right?
I literally don't know how to turn the sound off. I'm very sorry. Can I please be let off with a warning? Stop sending me shit.
That was
Okay. First of all, you alternate click on Discord, and then you move the mouse, right? It might be a trackpad depending on your setup, and then you click quit. I know it's quite complicated, Grandad, but
Or Command Q. Just go with that one.
If I close this, I'm going to get behind. Do you know how hard it is to catch back up again?
you see,
These blocks, these are like half-second blocks. You just cannot get back to the head after you close this.
How many unread do you have in Discord?
You know what?
What's the icon say in Discord? How many unread do you have?
Maybe a few thousand.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, what the fuck? So do I. You're not
Who
missing
gives a
too
shit?
much. I mean, you're clearly.
I do
I'm gonna
like
fall
wonder.
behind.
I do like wonder sometimes when people are like, I work all the time. I'm like, okay, there's a difference between like working all the time and being on Discord all the time.
Just
They're
reading
two
Discord.
Very,
Oh, shit.
very, very different activities. One of them is well, it's kind of closer to masturbation than work, really. But that's
So look, it was worth reading this one because it's fun, but it was Artifact showing me his stickers that he's got for ETH Denver, and giving me the website that he made it on, but also saying, be warned, it's dangerously fun to make swag here. You can go off the rails fast. So I guess there's going to be a lot of Artifact swag at ETH Denver.
Oh yeah, he has these holographic astronauts that are doing yoga. Oh
How
man,
cool
it looks
are they?
so cool. I feel straight jealous. It's like it went past envy and it's deep into the jealousy area.
Wait,
Yeah,
wait,
that's funny.
on a t-shirt or like
Stickers,
no,
just
stickers? Okay. Well, I'm not going to ETH Denver, so there was no point us making swag, and the couple of times we made it, then the events that we were going to take them to, they weren't delivered in time, and then I just ended up like in our office. Basically, we have under my desk, there's just like a pile of stuff for a couple of times when we bought it, it's arrived late. It's just like, cool, what am I going to do with this now? Like, it's just under my desk, getting in the way of my
There
feet.
it is.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Okay, so other things this week. So we had a poll on Twitter following up on our hard hitting sybil discussion, right, last week on Game of Nodes, asking the question: okay, is white labeling a sybil attack? What do the people think? We've had a long discussion about it. What do the people think? We want to get some feedback. 60% of people on that poll. Not important how many people responded. Definitely a representative
Huge
sample size of the
representation.
Cosmos. Massive.
Well, I voted with 12 of my accounts. So.
Massive numbers on this one. Massive, bigly numbers. 60% of people said white labeling was a sybil. 16.3, a mere 16.3 people. Obviously, completely impartial, but a mere 16.3% of people said it wasn't a sybil. And then a third option: no, it's not a sybil, but it's still dangerous for the network. 23.8% of people said that. So, and the no but still dangerous camp, I think, was summed up by Twitter user Ship the Code, which I nearly read as something else.
The code.
Summed up as white labeling operations introduce correlated risk. It's as simple as that. Sometimes it's even hidden, so no one knows it's there. And that was kind of the summary, I think, of the no but still dangerous camp, which is sort of like, it's not white labeling, but we're not super happy about it, which I was surprised more people didn't go for. But nearly 25% of people went for that one. So that's
just like as a validator and a network owner, I guess. Well, not really owner, but a network founder. Is that the right word? What do you think about this whole situation? I mean, there's white labeling to various degrees. There's people who are white labeling, but they have like basically some dedicated third party who's not doing, or potentially not doing, other nodes. And then there's just like flat out white labelers who basically are running thousands of nodes for other people. And sometimes, as we've seen, don't even give the keys to the people who own the validators. What do you think, man? What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, there is the spectrum from 0 to 1, and in between there's everything else. So white labeling to an extent, I feel, is fine, because if there is someone that really wants to contribute to the network, like let's just take the example of Confio, from one of the other dramas today. It is important that people like Confio, they might not have the expertise, they might not have the bandwidth, they might have the expertise but not the bandwidth to be able to run these ops, right? And especially in the Cosmos ecosystem, it is very hard to be able to incentivize someone that's a long-term contributor without them running a validator and without giving them a delegation grant. So that has become the most common practice of the way in which we incentivize contributors or stakeholders, I'll say. And these stakeholders can be technical people, non-technical people, and for them white labeling is important. We've also seen cases where funds, VC funds, do not know how to run infrastructure, and they essentially, have they contact the good guys. They make sure to contact the right set of people and get them to run a node. Right. In this case, again, various degrees, various methodologies are employed, and keys are given, not given. Some don't even take the, some don't take the mnemonic. Some do XYZ. So it is important because from a DAO structure standpoint, at least that's what's established at this point in time. But going forward, with more options for stakeholders to involve, maybe white labeling will not be necessary. And one analogy that I'd like to share here is, just take a look at what is happening in the Ethereum world, right? And these are not white labeled as such. They're sovereign, but at the same time, they're managed services. If we look at them, in a Web2 context. So yeah, I mean, it is everywhere, and it is in the network, and like the Luna community. Yeah, that is a different story altogether, right? And then there are
Yep.
networks.
The all nerds community.
Sorry.
The all nerds community.
Yeah, exactly. The all nodes community, right? So that's a different story altogether. But these have existed in other networks, in the other 50 plus networks in the ecosystem, and I think they're relatively okay, but they're not safe. I'm in the no, but they're dangerous camp. And this is, let me be clear that we too run white label services. It's not a white label service, but more like a managed service, and we help Cosmic Validator run their infrastructure, right? So from a technology standpoint, so this was one of the revenue streams that we had as well, back when we were bootstrapping the network, and doing various other ways, doing various other things to contribute. Yeah.
So in the beginning, your node operations were to actually, and this may still be the case, but your node operations were basically to gather token to support the like your what the fuck is it called? The basically like your initial listing of your coin, right? I can't remember what it's called. Like your LP. It was to support LP, right? In
LBP, you mean?
Something like that. Sorry?
The LBP, you mean? For the LBP?
Yeah, for the LBP, yeah.
No, actually. It is primarily, so it's twofold. So we have what is like a fiat revenue and a token revenue. And this is primarily used for, the team's expenses, infra operations, and so on and so forth. And of course, to be able to, fund operational development for Omniflix. But, most likely we won't be utilizing validator tokens, the tokens that the Omniflix network validator earned, as revenue from, or as rewards from some of the other networks for the LBP. So that will most likely be an option down the list. It won't be the case, because in the new stream swap model we don't have to do that. That's the advantage. Yeah.
So yeah, okay. No, okay, I get it. And you said that your validator operations are managed by someone else. Is that what you said?
No.
No, they're managed by yourself. Or did you say you do some white label for someone? Sorry, I missed like
exactly.
connection.
We manage infra for others. Yeah, that's right.
Do you have a like is that disclosed at all? Like who that is, or
yeah. Cosmic Validator. Yes.
Oh yeah, Cosmic. Yeah.
I mean, this is public. We wanted to do it the right way. They wanted to do it the right way as well. So
yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it necessarily really matters. I think I agree with the 0 to 1 type of thing, and like there's probably an area where at some point it doesn't make sense. I do think it has to do with the wallet, and the only reason it has to do with the wallet is really for governance. But my drum I keep beating is that validators should not be voting non-voting shares. So really that governance piece shouldn't really matter. And if you got rid of that, then this would be an issue that would go away. I mean, there's still a risk, obviously, from a blocks producing perspective, and you have, depending on who that white label is, if they're running out of 1 or 2 small DCs, and you have an issue in terms of chain stopping due to that, right? And that's still an issue, but I think most people get riled up because of the governance piece, and that all notes thing was really going back to the idea that they were doing. They were either they own those wallets or they were doing voting for people or whatever else, which I think that stuff is pretty fucked.
Let's catch up on some comments. Badgerbite says Null preaches the truth.
That's not a comment.
Always.
That's just
That's just a fluff. That's not a
it's a
comment.
fucking fluff. That's not. That's good. Don't put that shit in chat because you know it's coming on stream.
That's a valid.
No
that's a
null
very
comments.
valid comment.
No,
No.
literally, Null is not preaching the truth. Sisler says like, "Oh, we've also run white labels. We run them for Cosmic Validator," and then like 2 minutes later, Null's like, "So wait, hang on a minute.
Wait a second.
You guys run white labels?" It's
Mate,
like
it is
it's like
fucking
Zoolander where he's
hard.
like, "So wait, but why male models?"
It's hard to listen and read at the same time.
And read your own compliments and
Stop
chat at the same
reading
time.
Discord.
I was
Stop
stuck reading Null preaches the truth like over and over again. I got stuck on that comment. Anyway, so Badgerbite also says way too many validators are operators that have zero technical skills and thus are employing the white labels. Yes,
Yeah, but
there are quite a few.
honestly, Cosmos validators, they're all marketers. Either they're marketing to the community, they're marketing to project owners, or they're marketing to other validators. Those are the three groups. And all validators fit into one or multiple of those camps. Either they go after community delegations, they go after the project owners, right, for Foundation, or they go after other validators, meaning like they provide infrastructure for other validators. But they're all marketers.
I mean, that's a hell of a statement to make. That's basically like saying, yeah, all of these validators provide value to someone or other.
Well, I'm not saying they're all
Like,
good
okay.
marketers. I'm saying that the successful ones, the ones who have been
So
repeatedly
wait, if we're all
successful across
marketers,
chains,
if
are
we're
all
all
marketers,
marketers,
right?
then why isn't this podcast?
I don't know. I mean, we're terrible marketers.
I mean, I kind of disprove it thus.
They're all marketers, but that statement's true. Like they all in some sort of way. Like they always have focuses, right? Like people go after Foundation, right? And they want to be able to help and make Foundation. I mean, marketer's not a bad thing. I don't think it is a negative term. It's not a negative term, but they have a target market, right? They either are very community focused, and so they talk about governance, all that type of shit, or they go after Foundation where they want to be able to help projects, and that's not necessarily bad marketing. It just means they want to be able to help and they want to grow the ecosystem, or they provide infrastructure to other validators, or they provide things to be able to help in that way. And it doesn't have to be limited, and it's not necessarily negative, but they all kind of fit into those groups, right? At least ones that have repeated success with you.
Yeah. Oh, but actually, to be fair, there was another comment the Badgerbite made. I think it was
Not about
Badgerbite.
Null, is it?
Yeah, it's like Null's great. I love Null. I'm definitely not Null's sock puppet. That was no. They said it's not that difficult to run at a single node. Just learn the skills. FFS.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But it's the follow up to this. That's what I want to get on, which is when you scale to run on many chains, things to start to become tricky, right? But picking up on what you were saying, Usurper, that kind of everybody. I'm shit posting, right? But I think you're actually kind of pretty much bang on the money. Everybody has the structure of validation in Cosmos. The size of the val sets means that yes, you do have to be a marketer, for want of a better term. But I think I would actually caveat that slightly differently. I think that you have to survive as a validator, you have to. A lot of validators do come from, especially let's call them like the app chain winter validators or the Stargate era validators, just after IBC, like that generation of validators. The majority are technical people, but the majority also have one thing in common. I've noticed from talking to literally hundreds of validators, one of the benefits of doing Juno at the time that I got involved was that I've talked to a lot of validators, and the ones that have stuck around tend to be the ones that are business minded, right? And I think what I've noticed in the validator community, especially the people that I talk to and work with very regularly, is that the validators who have survived are the ones who are technical but business minded, or they are good marketers but business minded, or they like whatever the skill is that's underlying their contribution.
Yeah,
they all have in common that they fundamentally run a business, and they think in terms of running a business rather than necessarily in the more idealistic terms that I think the developer cohort do in Cosmos. And actually, I was talking to Schultzy in the week about this, which is that I think as a developer, and this is where Badger Bytes comment comes in as well, is that the issue with that is that as soon as you start to think in a kind of business focused way, you start to have to scale, right? Because that's how you mitigate risk.
Right.
And that is where the white labeling becomes a problem, right? Because you start to have to look at other solutions. Can you scale yourself? Can you hire new people? All of these introduce different risks and different stresses.
Right.
And white labeling is both a way of reducing risk and also introducing new risk to you as a business and to the network, blah, blah, blah. But there's another interesting thing, right? Which is that it also, depending on what your speciality is, it can take you further away from your speciality. And this is the tension, I think, that I was talking to Schultze about in the week, which is that if you're a developer, there are only so many hours you can put into in the week. It's very, very hard to scale focused flow hours on a development task. It's basically impossible to scale them, in fact. And so when you scale to multiple chains with that as your primary, value add, you find that increasingly you stop doing hands-on code and you start becoming more of an advisor, more of a kind of like I've seen this before. Here's what happened. Here's whatever. And I think actually both me and Schultze, developers, validators, run a small business now. And both of us, I think, when we participate in, say, mainnet Genesis ceremonies and things like that, I think the invites come for this kind of reason. And you're sat there in the channel being like, oh, I think we've seen this before. This might be what's happening if something goes wrong or whatever. And if everything's totally smooth, no worries. Okay, forget about it. Or documentation, or like encouraging people to set up Cosmify. It's all these tiny little things that you've learned, but they're not really, you've for the need to scale the business, you've actually become quite divorced from what you kind of see as your core skill set. And I think that's the other interesting thing. Like, it's taking it a little bit away from what we were talking about a second ago, which is, sybills and white labeling, all that sort of stuff. But I think there is also a tension, and we've talked about this in the past in various scenarios, between how you scale a validator operation while still adding the same amount of value add to multiple communities, right? Because even if you hire like 3 people, a lot of the knowledge you have that makes you a value to one community, it's in your head, and it's quite hard to scale that. Right. If that is your thing. I mean, other skill sets that maybe are not technical, it's much more easy to scale marketing. Say you can get good marketing people, you can socialize that knowledge, and then you can move forward probably a lot more easily than you can, debugging the fucking event system in the SDK, right?
Right. But and to go along with that, I think my point in like calling that different marketing buckets was also to say, like, if people are marketers to delegators, like let's use Don as an example. So Don provides a value to the Cosmos, right? And he wants to be able to earn as a validator, and he's going to use a white label, right? Somebody's actually running those nodes for him to be able to do that. I really don't have a problem with that. Like, I mean, part of that you can expect that he's marketing to the community. And so community marketers, you have NFT groups that are doing this, like we talk about Orbital Apes and other ones. You have YouTube personalities, you have like us, like we're two huge YouTube personalities, and like other types of groups that want to be able to exercise that right to be able to run a validator, but don't have the skills to do that. So that would be a white label situation. If they go to Sisler or they go to one of you guys to be able to do that, that would be great, because I know at least from that perspective, it's their right to do that, and they can drum up the delegation, and if they have somebody who can make sure that they don't double sign, then so be it. But I mean, again, that's Cosmos. I think we fought against that in the past, right? Like, I remember in a previous episode we talked about like find different ways to be able to compensate those groups and like let validators be infrastructure experts to be able to run infrastructure. But I think that's not this. I don't think that's this ecosystem. I think that's Avalanche, and that's Near, and that's Aptos, and that's other ones that are even Ethereum, where like you have a different type of structure to be able to drum up delegations. This one is a popularity. Like, there's a bit of popularity and there's a benefit structure to it, and if that's it, then so be it.
I guess it's also just like fundamentally the case that when you have the internet of blockchains and they're all sort of running a service that you squint at it looks similar, it is easier to scale your knowledge from one chain to another chain, or even to just like like a really prime example would be a portion of the Juno docs come from the Stargaze testnet docs, which were we pinched them, we rewrote chunks of them, and that became like the Juno docs for the testnets and then for mainnet, and then they got developed over time. And then a lot of the Juno docs, like for the chains that launched after Juno,
Right.
They kind of use those same documentation and stuff like that. And like, this is a good thing, right? Because it shows how reusable and how easy it is to disseminate that knowledge, because of course the Juno docs were based on the Stargaze docs and were based on presumably regen and other things before that, right? Whereas you go to another ecosystem and you look at the knowledge base there, and like it's like the core team or the GitHub or whatever, and it's usually just the core team or the foundation, and then asking around others via DM. Like the difference between Cosmos, the amount of information that's written is available for you as a validator, the videos, just because of the number of chains,
right?
And it's all transferable knowledge, versus like Aptos. Hey, you want to run Aptos on AWS? Cool. There's some example Terraform in the repo. There's docs from the foundation. You run into a problem, you need to find another validator on Slack and DM them, right? That would be, because there's such a small number, whereas like there's what, 1,000, maybe more validators in Cosmos. It's like a significant cohort of people, right? And teams and companies and whatnot.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also interesting that Cosmos is unique in that so many of us validators undercut each other, not just in commissions, but also in like the products we provide. Like our public RPCs that we provide hit between 10 and 30 million uses per day, right? Now, if you go to like Ethereum, you have Infura, which is a multi-billion-dollar company who hits obviously another order of magnitude more than that. But the fact that so many validators in the Cosmos provide so much public infrastructure. Pokachu holds snapshots, whereas before Pokachu came around, there was QuickSync, I want to call it, and they I think cost $10,000 a month for a network to have, and they provided less updated snapshots, less performance snapshots, and I would say less clean documentation for how to download them than Pokachu does for $10,000 a month. So if Pokachu was getting $10,000 a month for each of these networks, that would be, he's on 40 networks or whatever. That's $400,000 a month in theory, but he just does it for free, and it's a superior service. So there's so many things that validators are undercutting. They're kind of selling their product short in order to create their brand, which then goes back to why white labeling is kind of necessary, because there's that income stream that's necessary, and why developers aren't making great money as expected, because all of these products should be out there. Like Confio, the fact that Confio went out here and is like, hey, we need to stop our public good, in spite of it being arguably one of the most important aspects of the Cosmos. I think they also do Cosm.js, right? Two of the most important aspects of the Cosmos.
Yep.
And they're not able to get funding for it.
Right.
Because of these weird undercutting principles that we all kind of live by to build our brand.
To pick up on, to just sort of again, so spell out the scenario here very clearly. We alluded to this earlier, saying that we arranged all the drama neatly before Game of Nodes, that we could talk about it. This is kind of what we were talking, like what Sisler was saying a little bit earlier, where traditionally developers are sort of recompensed as stakeholders by running a validator. What Schultz is picking up there on then is that leads to attention, because you're getting drawn away by where you make your income from, away from being a developer, because you make your income as a validator, and that's now your business. And so then where this comes in today's drama du jour, or one of the several things that's happened today, is that Confio, creators of Cosmwasm, as you say, maintainers of Cosm.js, which is the primary way people build UIs in the Cosmos, announced that they are not going to be maintaining.
Cosmwasm is also why we have smart contracts. Without
Cosmwasm, Cosmwasm smart contracts. We've had obviously Ethan and we've had Simon on the show before to talk about that. Obviously, Juno, we have a lot of interest in Cosmwasm and smart contracts. So they are not going to be maintaining those public good projects anymore. They're not going to be triaging PRs. They're not going to be looking after them. And there's also a knock-on effect for security notifications that the existing security notification infrastructure is going to cease, with a couple of exceptions. So a couple of projects do actually fund Confio directly. Juno is one of them.
What other projects fund them?
Although there is some complication to that in a bear market, but Juno does fund Confio, and there's a whole ongoing thing. There's some complexity basically around the fact that Juno isn't a foundation, but so some teams like Juno are still, I believe, going to get security notifications and some kind of support from Confio.
Just posted a tweet from me saying,
"Yep," and they've posted it. They posted a Medium article basically explaining their position and saying that until they raise, I think their burn rate is $2 million a year. They have 25 staff and freelancers, I think, Confio, and so like until we're basically solvent effectively again, we have to prioritize the things that are bringing in money, and that unfortunately is at odds with spending all our time working on WASM-D, CosmWASM, CosmJS, and also upstreaming quite a bit of stuff into the SDK. From what I understand, there's the whole SDK 46, 47 thing as well, which I gather eats up a fair amount of time. So that
So is this
the one liner here? The bombshell is no more support for CosmWASM, and then there's a little asterisk with sort of
except Juno.
who else?
Yeah.
Who else supports Confio? You said there's 3 chains.
I think Stargaze do.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stargaze have given them some coinage.
And Terra has a prop up for it right now. Terra 2 has a prop up for it right now.
Okay,
right.
And so is this a chicken game? I mean, do they really not want to support it, or they can't, and they've been asking for funding, and now they're saying,
yeah, I think it's like a this is what happens when we don't get funded type thing, because I'm sure they want to maintain it, but you can't just keep running at a loss and asking and not getting any traction. If people like realize the consequences of not funding them, look, I mean, it's entirely possible that someone else picks up the candle. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing stopping someone else coming in and go, well, fuck it, we'll maintain it. We've got surplus dev power or whatever.
Yeah. I think so. Some people in the chat saying Osmosis as well. I think, though, correct me if I'm wrong, Osmosis paid specifically for the original integration, and that was like a time boxed piece of work and support. And I'm not sure there was like an ongoing agreement behind that, but perhaps they've paid more funds over since then. So could be wrong about that, but obviously that's kind of the tip of the iceberg for the number of projects that are using CosmWASM, and the fact that it has become kind of the default stack really,
right,
for new projects in the Cosmos. So yeah, it's one of those things where I think people who have any interaction with Confio or behind the scenes, this is not a surprise, because I think the complexity of their funding, Noel's just making himself coffee in the background there. The complexity of their funding, I think, is quite common knowledge, like as in that people that they need more funding than they're getting, and it's a bear market. But I think this is probably, like Usurper says, like, I need to say cry for help. That's not quite what I mean, is it? But it's like it's not quite playing chicken, but it is a hope that by essentially embarrassing potentially foundations that were dragging their feet in public, the people will pay up essentially.
Well, it's definitely a way to show the cost of maintaining this tool set that all these chains benefit from, right? That's one way of doing that. And I didn't mean to say it was chicken like as a bad thing. It's just a way to say like we can't afford it. It must have been a difficult decision internally also for this team, since they are the founders of this idea, and like it's created so much opportunity to then have to say we have this, these amount of people on staff and we're going to abandon, or not abandon, but we're going to stop working on it. Although the Juno caveat is weird, because you would think that if you're going to give Juno alerts, you would be able to give everybody alerts, which means you're doing the same amount of work whether you're telling one team or 30 teams. So I'm curious around that. But
I think it's also about responsiveness and whether people have set up a, like an alert, a security procedure.
Mm.
So most CosmWasm chains, based on an agreement made, I can't remember I think this must have been in 2021, have a security.md in their repo, which details a way of getting in touch, basically.
Right.
And a round robin of people you should get in touch with and how.
Mhm.
So there is actually a pretty straightforward way of doing that. But whether or not those people are actually A, contactable, B, gone away, C, got their Discord, I'm pretty sure you can't just send me a Discord invite. So it's things like that where, have you had some previous interaction with them? Whereas for us, I know Simon, I know Ethan. If they need to get hold of Juno, they can get hold of me, they can get hold of Jake, they can get hold of a number of people on the team. Super easy. For some other projects, I think there's less of a direct line of communication. So I think it's also a little bit it's a little bit about can I, in between the time it takes for me to remember a thing and walk to the fridge to get the milk, can I send a message on my phone that's yo, security update?
Yeah.
The other thing is the fray that now Ethan and gang actually have an economic interest in the security of Juno. So I don't think that they would let it get out of date in that regard, just because of their own interests as well.
Yeah, makes sense. But still, I mean, when you think about it for the greater ecosystem, it's a tough decision for them to make, to have to do that. So, and I don't know if would the community want someone else to pick it up, or is it really, oh, this is a wake up call, we need to do a better job of funding the underlying infrastructure and code that's creation of the whole ecosystem benefits from?
That seems
Well, I
like
don't
a
know,
worst case scenario
maybe-
to me.
Which one?
Yeah, but I mean, it's entirely possible that there's some other company out there who's got surplus dev power, and it might be a business move for them. They might be, well, we'll pick it up now, and we'll just kick the can along the road and keep it up to date with security, and then wait till the bull market, and then start asking people to fork up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people don't want to pay Confio for the support of Cosmosm. It's just that at the moment is a bad time. And obviously the grants you get along the way run out. So you sort of have to constantly be getting cash injections for this type of maintenance. And unfortunately, that's not a problem during a bull market. But when it hits a downtrend like we are now, everybody starts to looking at their liquidity and this type of thing. And they're like,
Right.
well, we can't afford to hand over, $500,000 a year anymore. So, or, a quarter or whatever. So,
Well, yeah.
It's
Sorry,
just,
go ahead.
sorry, no. Well, it just becomes we want to give you the money, but we can't because we'll kill our community at the same time. And then what's the point?
And the irony here is this is where the conversation comes back around to running a validator. How would they get constant income? They run a validator. And then
yeah, if they ran a validator on every network that they supplied, who that uses Cosmosm, and then petitioned for a decent stake from the foundations or whatever they call the big bags these days, then they might have some sort of security in that, and that could be a public good validator. And I got no problem if that's
look at the size
I'll
of
white label it for them.
look at the size of a lot of notional delegations on chains.
You mean two?
Yeah,
notional,
exactly.
you mean?
Yeah, and a lot of those are from teams.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah, a lot of those are
Yeah.
team delegations.
Or even the growth of DAODAO, right? Same type of thing, right? They just launched and they were top 10 within, because a community recognizes the benefits. I'm not sure how much this is a bit of how the sausage was made, so it's not necessarily as visible as something like DAODAO, because it's a little bit behind the scenes, but something that could be marketed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, DAODAO rocketed up because it is, it's a recognized brand of the chain. So, but also I think that maybe Jake supported that quite a lot himself. I could be wrong there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw a wee bit of shuffling. So,
but also with that, I mean, that is a way to do it in this type of situation. I'm not sure if that's the best way of being able to support that. To your point before, it does seem that there is a case to be made for teams that are using CosmWasm to be able to fund that in some sort of way, right? And that might be grants or something similar to that. But I agree. And also your point before, Null, about grants running out. I mean, a lot of times I'm guessing the timing that CosmWasm came out and the grants that were given, those tokens now are, if they didn't exercise them right away, those tokens are probably worth 1/10 of what they were, right? So even a large grant that was made in the middle of 2022 is not the same as what it is today.
Similarly
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Osmo, I think
But
there
I
was a
think they,
sell. Go ahead.
yeah, I think they're sold out straight away, right?
I don't know. Some of those do they all do that, or they kind of hold on based on?
I thought for
think it's
Osmo they
kinda
couldn't
cashed
sell.
out.
I thought there was like a 6-month
What was that?
vesting period or something. I thought so. I could be
It'd be
wrong.
I mean, depending on the grant size, that's tough because of your point before. Like you just drain the liquidity pool, right? Or you're gonna kill it for a month. It'd be better to spread it out.
I think the thing that's interesting here to me, right, is that something, taking it back to like we were talking about, like it's whatever you are, whether you're a developer, whether you're whatever, like the thing that validators have in common is that they're business minded, right? If you're business minded, you diversify your risk. You don't allow yourself to be backed into a corner, right? You don't want one client to be holding a gun at you.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting conversation. There's an interesting conversation happening in the chat, and there's like so like a really prime example of this. Jose Luis Lopez says we need to find a better way to fund a project without having them running nodes. We should allow teams to do what they do best, code, right? And that's great because you fund them, they can code, happy days. They have to want to run validators, and they're completely dependent on that income stream, right? So
right.
they're still in a high risk situation, right? And this is kind of the burnout. It's a part of the funding problem in the Cosmos and maybe in crypto generally, but definitely in Cosmos, and it's also part of the burnout problem, which we've talked about in the past, is that if you want to have a semi-sustainable way of doing this full time, you actually ironically can't do your thing full time because you're going to have to run a validator, and that gradually just takes over your focus. And there are pros and cons. The pro is that you can't fully be backed in a corner by anybody,
right?
Once you have like a brand and a setup and a yada yada yada. But you are still dependent on a small pool of different things. But it's less so than like one project says we don't want you, we don't need development anymore, and that's it. You're like, okay, it's.
But I mean, if it's revenue for your
Oh,
company, it's a small investment to have someone run some infra to get the revenue. But
is that
is it?
Why not white label the fucking thing?
Well, that's what. But this
Right.
is what I mean. It's
Yeah.
back to white labeling. White labeling is so much cheaper than like hiring a member of staff in the country we're in. Like, so our finance guys say, do not under any circumstances. So it's not easy to hire and fire in the UK, unless you're literally going bankrupt as a company and you can demonstrate that. So the rule of thumb is you need like a year to 2 years worth of their salary, usually 2 in crypto, because our accountants are crypto, they know this stuff, finance guys, and they're like, okay, look, we've seen people get into enough trouble. You need to have 2 years in the bank before you hire each person. 2 years in the bank, 2 years of a dev salary, we would have minus a lot of money in the bank. And this has affected us with working on projects like Howl and stuff as well, because like obviously we have the 2 other people worked on that, like we all co-founded it together and built that. And you're like, okay, well, can we bring more developers to work on this? Everybody's working on it part-time, and we're the company in the mix that has like some funds in the bank because we work full-time in crypto. And then you look at the amount it costs to hire a developer, and you look at how much we've got, how much we owe in tax and all this other stuff, and you're like, yeah, we've got like, besides our existing contractual obligations to freelancers and blah 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 blah, and all the other bits and pieces that we have coming in, you're like, we bring on one person and we are burnt through in under 12 months, like really really quickly. And you're like, and this is like the root of the problem. Is not even that you burn through your cash so quickly, it's that no developer is going to take a job when they come into interview and they're like, you work in a high risk sector, how much money do you have in the bank? And you're like, definitely enough to pay you for 3 years, please come and work for us.
Trust me,
like,
bro.
Yeah, just trust me, man. I'm not gonna have to make you redundant in 10 months' time. And this is like the essence of like the even with Juno, when we were doing outreach to find people who are crypto interested and worked in Go, right, to maybe come and work on this. And this is going back a year and a half. This is like pre-launch. I know some incredibly good developers. They work in Go, and I was talking to some of these guys and being like, "Hey, look, this stuff is it's child's play for you. Like, you know, you could do this. There's money in it. Blah blah blah." And they're just like, "Yeah, but it's not sustainable money, is it?" Like, they're like, "I contract. I go on. I get this amount per day. I invoice every week. I get paid. Why would I bother? Why would I bother with that drama?" And it's that risk reward thing of like the consistency, which I think, you know, even if you can get those guys to come work on a permanent contract, it's so hard to guarantee funds, right? If you buy a house, you have to guarantee funds. If you're trying to hire somebody, you don't have to guarantee funds formally, but that is the interview process. Is they're looking at you going, is this guy a deadbeat? Is this chain a deadbeat? Is this project a deadbeat? And then you say to those guys, hey, no, it is possible for you to come and work on this cool project that you want to come work on, but you've also got to run a validator. And they're like, right, so it's now two things, is it? And then you go back around the houses.
Yeah. I mean, all I can say is, yeah, I can actually share in that right now. One of my friends, he was just looking for work, and I was like, hey, consider the Cosmos. And I gave him a rundown what was going to happen. And he browsed on Twitter for like a day or something, and he was like, I don't know about that. That doesn't seem like my cup of tea. And I was like, yeah, okay. It's a little orthogonal. I mean, it's just adding one more flame to the fire, right?
That's just it. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like my friends are like, people I've used to work with. They're like, what do? Do you like just write smart contracts all day? It's like, no, I spend 30 minutes in the morning staring into space with a coffee, thinking about tax, and then I do some admin, then some more admin, then some server stuff, and then twiddle around with Ansible for a bit, and then yeah, there's a sweet 20-minute bit of the day where I get to write some Rust. It's fucking great. And then it's lunch, and then you know, there's usually some cool. You got to catch up on Discord because Null's fucking set shit posting, or you know, whatever. And there's some corporate fucking avatars thing that I've missed apparently, and god, and then somebody's pinging. I'm getting GitHub notifications because somebody's complaining that some docs are out of date. And you're like, oh yeah, it's quite a fragmented, weird existence trying to make all of these, kind of square all these circles. Like, but I think the important thing is, that's not to complain. Like, if you can handle that, or if you're in any way into that,
certainly sounds like a complaint.
Okay, well, that's just because that's just my regular tone of voice now. That's just being British. Like, it's totally fine. You should talk about the weather, but I think the point is that not everybody wants that. Some people literally, they want to work on a thing they're really interested in. They want to come to work every day, get into flow, knock it out, go home. Or if they're working from home, stay at home and go into the other room or whatever.
Yeah, working at home is this is one of the problems of being a validator, is like your office being your house and the beer being so close. So sometimes lunch turns into like just getting drunk.
All right, so it is 57 minutes in. We have asked Sisla one question, but before we do that, we do have a topic, right, for today's show, not just this. There's some great points in the chat I want to bring out because these are really good. Ben Davis says, I believe the hub should fund Confio. The indirect benefits alone make it a no-brainer for me. And then Soy2, where the hell is it? I think this is the right comment I'm picking up. It says, Soy2 says, it's not a direct liability to the hub. Atom community has voted that they don't want CosmWasm on the hub, so why should they pay for it? I think the consumer chain needs to support. And then I think that idea of like having, if the hub is the hub and we're going to be the liquidity center of the Cosmos, which they're trying to be able to be, right, with the interchain security and all that type of stuff, then maybe either they should be in a position to have to support tool sets that are used across multiple chains in the Cosmos, or I wrote in the comment that maybe then they shouldn't be able to allow it to use interchain security on chains that use CosmWasm. Like, why be able to apply that liquidity to chains that use tool sets that they're not going to support? So I think there's kind of this case around trying to keep Atom as being like a central hub of the Cosmos. And so what does that definition really mean? What does that mean? Is it just liquidity? And if it's just liquidity, then what these tool sets that allow the Cosmos to grow, do they have no responsibility to that? And maybe they don't, but I thought those are both good points I think that need to be called out. Nobody gives a shit. That's okay. Listen, maybe we're too.
Sorry, I'm just busy being the only one keeping timestamps.
Dude,
No,
dude, let's go.
I completely agree. I was just expecting somebody else to say something if I fucking shut up for a second.
I do love that. I just want
talk a lot.
to call these timestamps. Timestamps number, it says 0 bullshit for 11 minutes. 11. It's literally the timestamp. That's what's happening in the
As
notes
we've
behind
just
the scenes.
demonstrated, though, this is what happens when I don't fill the space.
4,900 employing people is hard. Those are. Look for these awesome chapters on the next Game of Nodes coming towards you.
Yeah.
So
Fair
while
enough.
I really like the idea of the hub not having to fund Confio because the hub doesn't have Cosmos and we've literally voted no on it, Confio does still handle Cosm.js, right? And that is the thing that people use for interfaces for Cosmos. So whether they should fund all of it or not, they should certainly have some part of the burden to play. But I did really like, there was another comment about like some sort of remittance system back to the Cosmos hub if they end up paying for it. And I think that's a really interesting idea of, maybe Cosmos doesn't need to cover all of it, but maybe there's some sort of like way of refunding Cosmos in some way if they end up covering all of it. I don't know. I think it probably makes more sense just to pay Confio directly, but the idea of some sort of like remittance between chains is absolutely fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
There's a whole lot there. I mean, it just occurred to me as well. We've got Todd in the chat. We should invite Todd on and made a whole
Todd in the chat.
a whole party, because obviously Todd has done that was my a kind of loose attempt at an Australian accent for a split second, but I backed out as I was going into it, so it just ended up with a weird voice for the word party. But Todd also has gone through the kind of applying for funds for public goods process on chains. We talked about that in the past with tender duty. So that's completely on us for not thinking that would be a good mix. But we also need to talk to Sisler as well. But
before we do,
the spreadsheet.
No.
Before we do, Tombstone of the Week, Injective on Mars. So as some of you might be aware, we're gonna let's deal with this. On the hour, we can finally get to introducing and talking to our guest, because we're scumbags. I'm sorry. We're just teenage dirtbags, baby.
Before you go on with your Tombstone of the Week, I know you love to go on with Tombstone of the Week, but back when we were talking about Todd, I just want to shout out Todd for his node security video on various ways that people can discover your validator node and attack surfaces for your validator node. So if you're not already, go and check out
Links
Todd's
in the
YouTube.
show notes.
Yeah, we'll put the links in the show notes.
was a
Like
good
and
video.
subscribe him so you can actually see his next security videos that he put out. He is great on security, and you should listen to him. And that's the plug for Todd. So that wasn't sponsored or anything, but definitely.
Todd,
you should
of
go
course,
check that out.
being block pane. So if you see
Yeah,
block
block
pane in the Cosmos, please delegate to block pane. Friend of the show and all round excellent human security mainframe being.
And if you haven't already, friggin' give us a like and subscribe to the fucking channel.
Yeah, do that.
We are at Game of Nodes _ on Twitter. So go and follow that shit as well, because I'm sick of you bastards coming here and watching this and not doing those things.
And delegate.
We need to get more popular. So you need to do those things for, I don't know, the algorithm or whatever. But also, yeah, delegate to our shit, because we're getting poor, and we're slowly losing all of our delegations, probably because of all the spicy shit that we say. So
maybe we could do a Confio thing and just do a public thing that we're giving up Game of Nodes unless you guys delegate. Maybe could we try it?
I think that would win. Or we could just
Who
get
would take this shit over? There's nobody to take it over.
We could get
So
Ben-
there's a new game of in the Cosmos. It's a game of chicken. We're all just gonna like say we're not gonna do our shit unless we get
Try
paid.
it.
No one will give a fuck.
This will never work. This will never work.
I've also I have a different plan, which is I'm going to get Ben Kingsley in character as Don to go round to all of the potential delegators and tell them to delegate. And here's a sample of what that's going to look like.
Yes, 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 yes.
That's going to get me the delegations. A man shouting this far away from their face.
All right, finish off your rant about the tombstone of the week.
It's not a rant.
We're done.
So this week's other news: Mars Hub launched yesterday. Another friend of the show,
Smooth launch.
Digital Larry. It was it was another one of those very late doors Genesis changes, and would you know it, not everybody had the correct Genesis. So the chain made precisely one block, and then it decided to have a little sit down. It was, imagine the chain in one of those European fairy tales. It's in a darkened wood. It started to walk into the wood, right? And there's all these noises and stuff. And it just sort of sits down on a toadstool and goes, I'm not sure about this, fellas. And after one block, that's sort of what it did. Sat down to have a little think. And after some poking in the back with a sharp stick, it decided to get back up and continue. But as it continued, a validator fell out of his basket and broke because the validator was an egg, I guess. So anyway,
do you blame the
Injective got too
validator?
Fucked up.
Do you blame the validator for this, or the
validator?
or the instructions?
Validator.
'Cause this is always like the same
Validator.
thing. Like every time someone tombstones, it's because they don't know what to do.
Yeah, so in this case, I think it was a combination of things. Like probably if the launch hadn't been so aggressively marketed as that day and that time, it would have been better to push it back a bit and ensure that the validators were all running the same Genesis file.
Even still, I submit to you that every experienced validator knows to maintain their state when shit goes to the wall. And
Yes.
Well,
is this what happened? The state wasn't maintained because
So
that's how you get double signed.
So the thing that happened was the validators in the chat are all relatively experienced, and so a couple of validators fully just went, "I'm turning off," which is a sensible thing to do when shit gets really fucky. A couple of validators were like, "No, we can probably recover this." I think it was either Crow's Nest or Crypto Crew snapshotted block one, and we're like, "Okay," with from a fresh node. With verified the correct Genesis and went, okay, we can use this to basically ensure we're all in the same state, ensure we're on the same Genesis, and we can then move forward because it's just an app hash, right? So it was like, okay, well, may as well give it a try because otherwise we're going to be doing Mars 2, which is obviously not ideal. And so everybody was like, right, okay, we'll use that and basically do the thing of state file, blah blah blah. So everybody sort of discussed that. I or Polka or Jabby, somebody put in a bullet point list of here's what you do: this state file, switch it out, unsafe reset, switch back in the state file, put the data folder from CC back in. Happy days, right?
Well, so one addendum.
Okay, hang on. No more on this. We get it. They didn't maintain their state. They fucked up. Let's move on. So onto the main event of why the fuck we have. This is going to go on forever if I just let
okay, before we move on, I just want to clarify. I don't think it was fully Injector's fault in this case. I think that they
follow directions, though, right?
They're not super experienced node operators.
That's their fault.
That is their fault.
That's literally the definition of their fault.
Yeah, but they're invited as an investor, aren't they?
I don't care.
I don't know. I think that's the network's fault for choosing not experienced validators for first out of 16. But also, they changed the Genesis 3 times in like
doesn't matter
6 hours.
Still
it doesn't matter. You go and check
fucking validator's role
before the fucking thing
exactly
goes.
That is a validator's role to figure that shit out, to look around corners to how much the project has fucked up the situation. It's literally the validator's role.
The
I'll
last
just- I'll
word
just
on this.
observe-
The
I'll just
last word
observe.
on this, DeFray. The last word on this is if you fucking tombstone your node, it's your fault.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair enough.
There's no doubt
It-
it
it-
is,
I'll tell
right?
you what, though, it is fucking terrifying when you're having to remake your way up to the correct round of voting, and all you're seeing is TMKMS every third of a second going,
Fucked,
attempt to
fucked,
double
fucked,
sign,
fucked.
attempt to double sign, attempt to
Given
double sign.
given the chat, people are sick of listening to us. Let's fucking hear from Sisler. How hard do I have? Do I have to just rug everyone to be able to move on here?
Yeah, I was having fun. Like I said, this is
Everyone,
like my
let's
backstage
have a
pass.
look at the chat. Get Sisler on. Get Sisler on.
Well-
Sisler. Fucking ask Sisler something.
Thanks, everybody. Kidding. I'm kidding.
No,
We're-
that's not it.
All right, let's
Um,
get to it.
Okay, so what is the topic of the week that we're here to talk to Sisler about? And it is DAO, right?
DAODAO's next week, baby. But this
No,
is
well,
this
why
is
is it
media DAO.
DAO with Omniflix?
This is
media
media
DAO.
DAO.
Mm.
That's what
Which
I
I
meant.
don't think so is okay. So first question, Sisler, is the media DAO a DAO?
So it is called the Interchain Media DAO, and it'll be a DAO. Yeah, that's right.
So what is
It is a
interchain
DAO,
media?
so it's a cross. So is it just? It's on Juno. The DAO's on Juno,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's is it going to be an interchain DAO doing things on Omniflix, or is it a DAO that is to do things but on Juno?
yeah. So at this point in time, it can utilize the Omniflix infrastructure, but we are not thinking of like integrating Omniflix or any other network as such. We just want to utilize proper DAO tooling, to be able to manage collectively, organize ourselves and take it to the next level as a DAO. So that is why we're using DAO, because we feel it is the most advanced piece of infra, from a DAO standpoint in the ecosystem. Yeah, it has nothing to do with Omniflix actually. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the media DAO?
Yeah. So, okay, I'll just set the name right. So it is the Interchain Media DAO. So the abbreviation is ICMD. But what does this do? Primarily, it is a collective of stakeholders, be it core business development folks from that are representing the chains or the foundations. It can be people that are community managers. It can be the developers that are actually working on the technology part. It can be people that are evangelizing the chain as a whole. We're not talking about, say, an influencer or someone that's representing the chain in multiple contexts, but at the same time, these are people that are directly working, for a network, for a project. It can be a DApp as well. It need not be a chain as such, but it is to involve the stakeholders that are working towards the benefit of a specific piece of tech, right? And bring together this collective. And the objective here is to be able to enable better ops at communication, at spreading awareness in general education, right? So these might be like, to an extent, these are vague, it's a lot, but at the same time, want to like tackle these step by step. Yeah. So it's a collective in one simple word.
What would be what are some of the goals? Like what would be the what are you trying to protect, or what are you trying to what right are we, or what wrong are we trying to right with it?
What wrong are we trying to right? Okay, so there are problems that we saw. There are problems that we still didn't see as an ecosystem. So the problems that we saw is the fact that there might not be consistency in maybe communication. So different networks choose to say communicate with their validators differently. Be it Discords, be it emails, be it like flagged emails, emails that are like colored, so on and so forth. Everyone has their own preference. That is comms with validators. What about comms with a community, with their community, right? And community not just refers to like community of traders, but community of multiple stakeholders, right? We're talking about developers that are working, partners that are implementing, working on multiple apps, implementing their own solutions and so on and so forth. So here we are first trying to address the problem around communication. And how are we trying to do that? It is by being able to produce consistent media. So there are these formats for governance proposals that we have right now. There was a version that was worked on by Figment back, like it was extremely early. It was one of the earliest props on the Cosmos Hub. And, I think it was for like 5,000 Atom back then. And that was the prop, right? Like they chose to work on standards for writing proposals, issuing, deploying proposals. Such SOPs or standard operating procedures did not evolve. So when it comes to comms, like I'll say, I mean, excuse my language, but the Cosmos ecosystem is like not too great at communication, right? Comms. We are not talking about marketing. We are not talking about spreading awareness. We are not talking about anything else, like just comms. So where does this disparity lie? It is in not having consistency among all the 50 chains, right? And we aim to like pick out a branch and address public communication with with the media DAO, interchain media DAO. Yeah.
Okay, and that you mentioned validators, but obviously there's also a huge focus on creators. Is that right?
Yeah, it is this collective of course, creators that are creating video content, text, image, and audio, like text, audio, video, image, like the four types. It can be people that are writing threads, like Thyborg, who has joined the informal team. Then we have the people that are creating video content, like all of you, Sito, Liam, Joe, Don, and others, right? People that are actually creating memes. Right? I do not know who actually does create these memes, but they're out there. Cosmos memes are out there.
The Juno Source sub DAO, I believe.
Yeah,
it's an official sub DAO. No, but so
The
a question that I have, like, is the goal more kind of like organizational? Like, is it just like to give a tent for everybody to piss out of, or is it more about that was funnier than I intended? Is it more about having like almost being able to coordinate comms to all those stakeholders? So like I don't know, like the traditional news analogy would be a wire service, right?
Yeah.
So whether you're the BBC or whether you're like you run ships and you're worried about weather, right? You probably subscribe to a wire service like Reuters, right? Because you want to know we're going from, I don't know why I want to say Liverpool, but okay, we're going to Liverpool. We're going from Liverpool like the fucking Beatles, mate.
Yeah.
As Noel Gallagher said once, stop writing songs about how much you hate your parents, cut your hair, buy some jeans, get rid of those skater shorts, and listen to the Beatles. I actually fucking hate Oasis, but it's a funny one. It's a funny line. Anyway, so we can go from Liverpool to like Caracas, right? Which I think is landlocked. So I don't know why we're doing on a container ship, but let's go, baby. You're probably going to subscribe to a wire service, even if you're a shipping company, right? Because you want to know that there's no trouble on your destination, right? Whereas if you're the BBC, you're subscribed to a wire service because you're going to write news about it. If you're the Frey, you subscribe to a wire service because you're a sick person. There are many different constituencies who would subscribe to a wire service, but the fundamental need is like that top of the funnel news. So is the media DAO just the coordination, or is it also the funneling of like factual? These are these that are happening.
Yeah. So it's like multifold, I'll say. It'll start with first being able to put together people that are, these stakeholders, the collective, internal organization within the ecosystem. So these can be people like, say, Sunny and Jake together can talk about mesh security. I'll say better than anyone else in a specific context. Now, it is the job of like multiple other content creators to be able to understand what that tech is, the concept, break it down into like independent parts for the community to understand. If all of this happens properly, there is enough information, accurate information that goes out. And at this point in time, I'll say, because we are a smaller community, misinformation doesn't actually spread as much. There's no information about a few things, but it's not really misinformation. There are perspectives. That's a different story altogether. So first is internal organization. Then as a media DAO, as this collective, that's not representing the Cosmos ecosystem, but that can be a gateway for external people It can be journalists. It can be it can be external people that are reporting about Cosmos to ensure they get their facts right. We've seen extremely like it's like frustrating because we saw so many cases where details about Cosmos have been represented like inaccurately. They've not been reported at all. They've been like butchered to an extent where people don't understand the idea of whatever we're trying to do. And these
You could
these get
say
misrepresented outside the ecosystem. Sorry.
you could say Kessler. You could say prop. You could say prop 16 if you like.
Right? No, so many things happened, right? And
So many things.
yeah, I mean, including the Cosmos definition initially. Cosmos Hub, Cosmos Network, Cosmos Ecosystem, no one fucking knew the difference.
Nobody still
it was hard
does.
initially.
Nobody still does. Like if you look at any like, but
Yeah.
to be fair, you make a very good point, which is that like as an IBC verse, like fuck the Cosmos thing, right? Just as an IBC verse, which is increasingly beyond SDK chains,
Mhm.
we lack the ability to talk about the fact that effectively there is a protocol that is as important as HTTP going on here, and that the real story is like it's sort of like that thing about like, oh, the World Wide Web had to at some point be called the World Wide Web and talked about in a coherent way, and we're not there yet, like with the IBC verse and with the interchain, in the way we talk about it externally within the tent when we're all. I'm not going to say anything more about the pissing activities of this tent. When we're all in the tent, we can all communicate about it very sensibly. But like, it feels like we do have actually a bit of a blocker about the way we're talking about that. To people outside, like you say, be it the media, be it ordinary people. I mean, primarily the media. We have no fucking pull or whatever. Like, it seems like all the time it's just we've not been able to articulate that the interchain is important because it's a like we just start saying the word protocol until the journalist dozes off, right? They're just like, no, it's important because it's a protocol. They're like, sorry, the interview ended half an hour ago. Why are you following me to my cab?
Yeah, I mean, good innovation, great innovation needs articulation, right? If you can't articulate this,
Oh, you should put that on a poster, mate. That's good.
That's a good one, man.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I
Vote in the chat if you want that on a
think
t-shirt.
I read it somewhere. I don't know, but definitely not original. I mean, it's an inspiration. But yeah,
Sisler 2023. Great communication. Great.
No.
I
already lost it.
Innovation needs articulation.
Right.
Right? So definitely, that is important. I think that is important because developers don't communicate. Like people that are technical enough, they don't have the patience to be able to write a doc, sit down. We can take ChatGPT's help, but that won't benefit quite a lot. And eventually we get lost in the translation. No one understands what we're trying to do as an interchain ecosystem. Even personally, to me, the interchain ecosystem is a connected network of chains that or protocols, apps that utilize IBC. It's not about the SDK because it can be much beyond the SDK. And SDK enables, like, facilitates the easy creation of sovereign infrastructure, right? And if that's possible, everything is, and people can now at this point in time, like, actually build what they dream to, like, on a DLT, and without having to, like, depend on other infrastructure, like, say, predefined protocols on Ethereum and things like that. They can utilize the SDK to do what they want. So yeah, 100%. And that is one of the reasons why it is the interchain media DAO hopefully scales to a level where we'll be able to produce enough content, produce high quality content that can attract talent more than media, more than, like, of course, one day when it attracts talent and it has, like, enough useful stuff, it'll attract money too. Yeah.
So if we boil this down a little bit, is this going to effectively be like its own, let's say, like its own magazine, for lack of a better term? You're going to go to Open Media DAO to see the most current, up-to-date events in the IBC ecosystem?
That's news. We don't want to be a news reporting agency, for that matter. So the format that we thought of, like, this was actually way before all the props around content and everything else came about on the hub and in the ecosystem. So yeah, we thought of a model. This was actually for Omniflix, back in August, where we thought of, like, I'm not sure if many know, but in 2021, the entire year from Jan till about end of year, we produced a series called Conversations with Jack Zampolin, and that was like one series. It was way before CryptoCito. I don't think CryptoCito was in the ecosystem back then, but when that happened, it was a series of episodes, like video episodes, and people. It was informative from what I can tell and the feedback that we received, but it didn't have like quite a lot of views and things like that. That inspired us to produce predetermined informative content for every ecosystem, right? So let's say Evmos, let's say Juno, right? There are 100 validators. Take 52 weeks in a year. Even if you cover 2 validators per week, 100 validators are not covered. 150 validators definitely not covered, right? And that's a lot of content to produce, even if it's a 30-minute video, right? And this way, if you look at like 4 networks, there are 400 validators. Of course, there's an overlap, but how is Notional contributing to Juno versus how Notional contributes to Evmos are like two different things, right? And we want the Evmos community to know their reason, the Juno community to know their reason, and this was the format that we thought was required, because not a lot of there is no know your validator, know your node kind of a program. That was what we thought. After that, things changed, right? Like, things drastically changed from an operational standpoint. Coordinating all of this, from not as Omniflix, but as an interchain media DAO. Then we spoke to Jake, Dimi, the Juno team, of course, supported, and then CryptoCito, DeFi, French validator, Liam, Chango, all of them, went ahead, showed their support during Cosmos, and even after that, we started to onboard like one creator after another, starting with video, then we'd move on to text, and then the other formats. So this is what we thought of, but at the same time, it is taking time, and we haven't been able to like focus 100% on the ops around interchain media DAO. So that was the delay, but it is not like, this is we believe is time, has a longer shelf life. So it's not like a 1-2 week, or even if there's a 1 month delay, it's not like like life changing as such. But at the same time, once we start, the consistency is important, like how you guys are doing, right? 49 weeks consistently every week. So yeah.
We
2100
52
UTC.
Fucking
weeks
crazy.
a year, 2100 UTC on a Wednesday. Like and subscribe. Don't miss an episode because we don't. Fuck, it's killing me.
Maybe not. Maybe not the first week of March though.
Yeah. So, Sisler, I do have a question. So, DAOs are good and all, but presumably people producing the content from the DAO need to get pay dizzled. So, like, what is the model for monetizing the output?
This is straight up service, right? It'll be most likely it'll be a case of revenue from day one. It is either okay, I'll say it is either social capital that we receive, or direct tokens, or grants, and so on and so forth. We've been exploring models. A community pool approach might work in some cases, but that was before a lot of the action on Twitter in
Resistance.
December, right?
The current resistance to fucking funding anything.
Right? So it is important that the community has also understood, is able to differentiate between proposals. So there is this mixed approach of asking the community pool as well as talking to the foundations for being able to produce content like this. So let's just imagine, right? Talking about numbers, if there is a community of 100 validators that wants to like make an episode, like create an episode featuring every validator, 100 episodes, 20 minutes each, even if the show, the host might take, say, I don't know, like these might be wrong numbers. I might be setting wrong expectation, but let's just say they take $50 for those 20 minutes, and X, Y, and Z cost post pre-production, they all sum up to $100. So 100 validators, $10,000, 1 year, consistent content, completely neutral, revenue from day one. That is the revenue model that we thought of as well, while also being able to like license content, like not license, but take permission from the creators that already have video content, run a 24/7 broadcast, and be able to monetize this broadcast. That was why I pinged Frey, and then this episode happened. So we were supposed to have this discussion around that specific thing, where we could take permission from you, because on YouTube there's a copyright strike, and you ought to take permission before you can utilize.
Well,
So
the danger is if you take any of the Game of Nodes content,
You'll get strikes.
you're going to get copyright struck, because we get copyright struck like every time we use our outro, or we, just
Okay.
randomly play parts from a Ben Kingsley film in the middle of the episode, or
Because we're Billy Badass and we don't give a fuck.
because we just dicks out for the
This thing-
SDK.
But yeah, it's hard to censor all the curse words, and yeah.
We got demonetized before minute 1 on this one, which it's not even a new
Fucking
record.
null,
Who the
man.
fuck am I kidding? But it's
Null's camera has cost us so much in revenue. It's incredible.
it is very crisp today, though, isn't it?
It is.
Like Null's camera does to be
Almost do
fair,
that.
look quite good, despite being all
Or
the way in Australia.
You got to be in the pocket on this camera. If you're outside the pocket, you just are a fucking blur. It's like looking at you through 40-year-old eyes.
It's good though, because it means you're not able to jerk around so much. There's nice kind of anti-ADHD mechanism kind of operating right there.
I'm sure he's jerking a lot.
You see how it doesn't refocus every 30 seconds, Frey? Thought about getting a new camera lately? Or
I'm not buying a new camera. I spent
other
money on this
expenses going
fucking
on.
camera. There's not.
or maybe work out how to use the one you got.
Well, just tell fucking Razer to make their little child gamer cameras compatible with a real OS like Mac OS X.
So,
Okay.
Sisler, are you saying that I can go to the Media DAO with my $50 and get like a meme built? Can I get a theme song?
No,
Someone
that's not
fix my fucking website.
No,
That's called Fiverr. No,
It's not.
that's
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not
exactly.
where
Fiverr
you
for
go to do your
Cosmos.
taxes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's where
So-
you went to do your taxes.
Yeah, I abandoned that though. I went there initially. I found out it wasn't a good idea. The right move is just to keep changing your accountants until you get the answer we want, which we covered last week. So
It's still a stupid
It's such a
cover.
fine line between stupid and
Clever.
yeah,
It's just
clever,
that little
clever.
turnabout.
Just that little turnabout.
little turnabout. Yeah, Sisler, I don't know if you've got the same kind of tax problems that we've got, but they're
Oh,
big.
don't bring
No
it back to
tax.
tax for Jesus
No
Christ.
tax.
Are you kidding
We
me?
don't talk about.
Shut
So-
up. So what I'm
there's
curious
plenty more
about.
drama. Like if you want to talk about some drama, if you don't want to talk about media anymore, there's plenty more drama. There's the Dex prop. There's Alliance. What the fuck's up with that?
And
There's-
Comet.
and
I
Comet-
want to point
Comet,
out
right?
that the
Comet came today. Comet
Yeah,
Tendermint.
what the fuck?
The artist formerly known as Tendermint Consensus.
So I want to point out that the funnest thing in the actual Game of Nodes today is the spreadsheet, which I'm here reading, and I've just muted everyone because fucking the fray just goes on. But more lines from the spreadsheet. Jesus, please, no more topics. Immediately after, in capitals, need more topics. And
That's how we
it
work.
is just full of bullshit today. It's hilarious.
How do you,
Sorry for the
How do
mute.
you mute
I can
everybody
unmute you now.
to fucking talk about the spreadsheet?
I didn't
So
even know
Sisla-
you could do
Just
that.
going on
I'm
shit.
just a bit shook actually.
Back. Yeah, seriously. Okay, we're taking admin rights away from you.
Like it's going to
That's
be
it.
like
you've
hard.
overextended your admin right access.
The
here.
phrase,
This
like-
is ridiculous.
Constantly fucking probably having to edit out all of us talking over the top of each other all the time.
It's difficult. Well,
Wait,
it's tough. It's also
usurper.
tough because your mouth is 4 seconds behind your audio.
Yeah.
I know
Enjoy
that
that.
annoys you. I know. So Sisla, back to the media DAO. Why did you start this? Like, what was? I understand like that your kind of reasoning, but like, what was the real kind of underlying passion, and why did you guys decide to do it as? Is it an Omniflix structure? Is it a whose endeavor is it? Is it Omniflix? Is it Sisla's endeavor? Like what and what really was the event that pushed it over the edge to say this is something we want to do?
No. It is
Like
like
the
1
disappointment in
minute
my
30,
face.
so-
I actually got an actual question out.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
Sisla.
please.
Can you please
Yeah.
answer that?
No. I was expecting this to happen. Okay, luckily it didn't happen to me, but
Nope,
okay.
it's not happening.
We're not going to.
I thought
We're not gonna
about
rug
it. I thought about it very strongly, and I
You-
realized that we would become the most hated people of the cosmos.
Seriously, you can't put them on we put them on ice for 65 minutes and then you rug them at an hour 30.
This will be the
brutal.
first episode, though in kind of honored guest terms. This will be the first episode in I think 15 or maybe more episodes where we've gone over the time because there's
many
been so
episodes.
much drama and we talked over
Sure.
Sisla for so long.
But I do take all the spaces out of our bullshit. So actually, this episode is probably like 46 minutes at this
Yeah,
point.
so on podcast players, it's probably like 25 minutes
It's
long
25.
podcast interview entirely with Sisla's content, and it's just like,
Exactly.
wow, they really didn't cover
Really not much
Comet
going
BFT or anything in that
Yeah.
episode. It's no mention of Confio.
Yep.
So
All right, so
Sisla can
please.
probably answer that question now. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is I'll say it is a personal thought that the team had first,
Mhm.
even before Omniflix. Of course, being the selfish people we are, we thought of doing it with Omniflix infrastructure. And after that, we realized that it is more than Omniflix. And eventually we came to a point where we realized that this was not just our problem, but if done right as a collective, this can solve like multiple other problems and yield far more greater results, right? Because as Omniflix, maybe, we can do X, Y, Z, but like a few things, but as a collective, there's a lot more that we can do. The first glimpse of what I saw, there were multiple groups in the Cosmos ecosystem, but the first one for non-technical folks was, I'll say, the Cosmos VIP. I'm not sure if people are aware of that. That's like a pretty old group that had a lot of the interactions pre launch of the hub or pre 2020. But the Cosmos BD Telegram group, I'll say, has benefited like quite a lot of people. I'm not sure, if anyone keeps a track of that, but regardless of any value exchange, it being a DAO, it's just a group, and it benefited quite a lot of people. I know personally because we've been introing, like helping others connect. We've received in like intros from others and so on and so forth. So that happened. That was like one key point when we realized that as a collective this will be beneficial. And at Cosmos, it was like finalized, completely, and with support from Juno. There's nothing for Juno or Jake or Dimi to actually support in terms of their time, effort, energy, but just from an ideology standpoint and how things can like work, specifically within the ecosystem and how they plan to take this forward. Definitely that was helping initially, and then with the others. Yeah. So
That's
not
great.
a personal initiative, I'll say, anymore. It is more like an Omniflix initiative within the Cosmos ecosystem, just like how Game of Nodes is the initiative of all of you guys.
It's really, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you had a lot more forethought than we did in the game of node structure. This was just this kind of happened by accident, and here we are.
But this episode is in a lot of ways the purest form of a Game of
is.
Nodes episode, because
I agree.
Sisla was like sending me a
Ignored
message
for-
being like
For 75
being like,
minutes.
we should all get on a call, and I was like, I know of a call that everybody will be on. It's 2100 UDC Game of Nodes every Wednesday. Don't adjust your set. This is not there is this is happening. This is you're not tripping balls. You're inside the tent pissing out. You're not outside the tent
Oh
pissing
my
in.
God.
Welcome to Game of Nodes.
Welcome.
Every time you do that fake rug now, I'm going to do the full intro. And that would just
Is-
make it even more
Yep.
confusing and even more psychedelic for anybody listening later. They're just going to be like,
There's been so many epic like opportunities for rugging. It's just
I mean, yeah. There's a kind of interesting thing now that because everybody expects that we actually will rug like pretty aggressively.
Mhm.
That when you do the rug pull of the rug, it's like
It's fucking layers in this show.
I don't
yeah,
know,
it's just like, oh, it's the end now. Okay,
Fucking
cool.
layers.
yeah. Well, I was going to say Brechtian alienation, but I don't think it is Brechtian alienation because Brechtian alienation is the repetition creating a lack of meaning, isn't it? Whereas this is just something we've attained some higher level of postmodernism here, which I lack. Somebody in the chat must have also done a humanities degree. Help me. What is the term? Is this hyper real? Is that
See-
what we've done? Is this hyper reality?
All right, now
Is this
rug.
the real life?